It's finally happened. The day has finally arrived. Biora announces successful completion of its second device performance study in human subjects for targeted therapeutics platform. This is the data that I've been waiting for months, and it's finally here. Biora Therapeutics has successfully completed its second human trial for its drug delivery system. Hello, everybody. My name's True Demon, and I'm the Devil's Stockbroker. This video, I'm going to cover some important and amazing breaking news from Biora, formerly known as Progenity Incorporated, who's been creating a magic pill, basically, to deliver intravenous payloads or drugs, normally which had to be injected, but are capable of being ingested instead in order to deliver that intravenous drug. This is a novel piece of technology which is new to the market. It's never been seen before, and Biora has had multiple successes of this new drug delivery system, which is likely going to revolutionize the entire field of internal medicine. And they've just announced the results of their second human study, which have had tremendous success. Out of 39 analyzed capsules, not a single one had a failure mode, which indicates that the capsule failed in delivering its payload and had no adverse effects. So the study included 12 participants who ingested a total of 46 capsules. 43 capsules were recovered for analysis with data retrieved from 39 of them, the drug maker said. Biora expects to report its third human study, PM602, in active ulcerative colitis patients in Q3 and targets to initiate a phase 1 trial by the end of 2022, Chief Executive Officer Adi Mohanty said. The shares of the company rose 10% in recent trading activity on Thursday morning as a result of this announcement. So Biora has been working tirelessly on getting this clinical data, and this is a piece. This is a piece of the clinical data that we have been waiting for so long from Biora. This study was announced through the Biora Investor Relations Desk, but this article from Globe Newswire covers the brunt of it. The study demonstrated that all of the capsules were safely ingested and exited the body naturally, which is obviously an important part if you're going to start swallowing electronic parts. This was the quote from the chief executive officer. To our knowledge, there is no currently available ingestible medical device for delivering drugs that is designed to be taken with food. And this is absolutely true. I've looked all over in the field of medicine. There so far has not been any attempts to have a smart pill that's been able to be delivered through ingestion that are capable of delivering drugs directly into the intestinal lining. The reason why this is so important and why it fundamentally changes internal medicine is that when you consider that most capsules that are ingested the way that we have them today, like when you take an aspirin or an ibuprofen or you take your vitamins, much of those drugs are designed to be ingested and dissolved in the stomach and then absorbed naturally. But certain drugs are actually destroyed by the stomach acid. And a lot of the time, the drug makers that design these capsules design them to be slowly dissolving so that they're capable of reaching the intestine mostly intact before they finally dissolve and break down. And that's done in order to deliver as much of the drug payload as possible to where it's needed. This is especially true in cases of ulcerative colitis or Crohn's disease, which are both intestinal autoimmune conditions that affect the stomach and the intestinal lining. And because of the delicate nature of the drugs, that drug needs to actually come into contact with the area that's affected by the basically inflammation. And if the majority of that drug is dissolved in the stomach, it actually causes serious adverse effects. It can actually lead to nausea and other side effects that hurt the quality of life of the patient. With the new payload and drug delivery system that Biora Therapeutics is developing, they'll be able to deliver drugs such as tofacitinib and adalimumab, which are both drugs that are developed respectively by Pfizer and AbbVie. Particularly adalimumab, which is actually the clinical name for Humira, is the most profitable drug in the world. And currently, that drug's patent is coming up on expiration. When that drug's patent expires, other drug makers will be able to recreate and synthesize the same drug and make it more cheaply available, which overall is good for patients because it makes the drug more accessible, cheaper, and affordable. But for AbbVie, it's actually quite detrimental because this is the source of much of their revenue. However, if they are able to partner with with a company such as Biora Therapeutics that's developing a new delivery system for the drug, then not only can AbbVie renew a patent that specifies the usage of adalimumab within one of these smart pills, they can be the first ones to arrive at it. And it doesn't even have to be AbbVie necessarily. If another drug maker synthesizes another form of Humira and partners with Biora Therapeutics, such as Pfizer, then those drug makers will be able to create a new patent for this specific drug with that specific drug delivery system. And that combined patent and licensure agreement makes Biora Therapeutics intellectual property worth millions upon millions of dollars. Just by itself, Humira brings in more than $3 billion of revenue for AbbVie every single quarter. It's an insanely profitable drug. The other counterparts, such as tofacitinib, is just another example. There are other clinical studies which suggest the possibility for delivering insulin for diabetic patients, specifically type 1 diabetics, that if the drug could be delivered directly into the intestinal lining and if it were injected through the intestinal wall, such as with the oral biotherapeutics delivery system that Biora Therapeutics has created, it's possible that insulin can be taken by pill. And that would fundamentally change the lives of everyone who suffers from insulin. No longer would they need to take insulin pumps. They wouldn't have to carry them with them all the time. They could just carry a basically a tube of smart pills, and whenever they need an insulin adjustment, take a smart pill. This is, of course, speculation on my part, but it's just one such case of the power that this new technology brings to the field of medicine. If you want to read more about this, I encourage you to look back in my channel's history. I have a playlist of all the due diligence that I've done on Progenity or Prog. That was the ticker symbol that Biotherapeutics used to have before they rebranded. So if you are interested in that, please go take a look at those videos. I've also published multiple Reddit articles that you can look back on. I'll add those to the description of this video. And yeah, please look into this for yourself. But Biora Therapeutics has finally reached a point where its intellectual property is prepared to go to market. It's very close. They need to get through several more clinical trials. They need to go through the FDA approval process. This is going to be a lengthy process, so it's not going to happen within a couple of months. It's not going to be like probably not even within the year. But over time, with the cash runway that Biora Therapeutics has and its current partnerships that it's established with Ionis and speculated partnerships that it may be in talks with between Pfizer, AbbVie, and other drug makers, I have great faith that Biora Therapeutics will be a massive disruptor of the medical industry just with this technology alone. So I'm really excited to see what they come up with next, and I'm really excited to see the new results for their next phase of clinical trial data. But that's all that I got for now. As for the technicals, I will go ahead and show you some of that before we close up for the day. Please just excuse the paper trading symbol. I've been teaching some of my viewers how to paper trade. This is not a real trade, so just know that. I do, of course, still have my Biora position. I've had it ever since October when Biora Therapeutics used to be Progenity, and I have been holding this company for the long term. Now, on the long term, if we look at the daily chart, Biora Therapeutics has been trading down in this channel for quite a while. The thing is that now it's basically bottomed out. It can't go any lower than this. So Biora Therapeutics is now started to form, or rather, it has escaped a descending wedge. So this is the critical wedge that I've been waiting for it to break out of before I started buying more. And in preparation for this, I've been selling puts in order to accumulate more shares at these prices. If I don't get assigned, I just keep my premium. But if the puts that I sell get assigned, then I end up buying more shares at preferred prices, and I get money for doing that. So for me, that's a good deal. At the moment, Biora is showing quite a lot of strength and volatility as of late. So right now, this falling wedge that's formed on it, it is getting ready to break out. On the technical side, we see that there's multiple on the technical side, we see that there's multiple liquidity pools below the 50-cent line, or 60-cent line, I should say. Excuse me. It is possible that Biora may retest those levels, and then that would be the sign of an institution dragging the price down in order to hit stop losses and capture more shares in the market. However, I don't think that this is a likely scenario given that the price has already been dragged down quite a bit. This is the heaviest level of support that Biora Therapeutics has seen. It's been at this price only one other time in its past history, and that was back in August and September when it had a sudden sell off from $1 down to 59 cents. At the moment, Biora is still trading far below its 200 period moving average on the daily time frame. It is currently testing its 20 period moving average, so the average price of the last 20 days. On the hourly time frame, however, we're getting multiple crosses and we see that they are very close together. Now, this is not typical for a long-term trend reversal, but I do look at these patterns and these crosses of moving averages, and on the hourly time frame, I have noticed that once the 200 and the 50 period moving average get really close together on the hourly time frame, then the multiple crosses begin to illustrate some volatility and show that there is a sign of reversal coming into the market. That's usually my sign to go ahead and buy long with the intention to hold for the long term, especially on these particular types of stocks that are well below their valuation right now. Biora is currently showing quite a bit of significant loss in its net income. This is mainly because they've spent most of their cash runway in actually developing this technology. Now they have cut most of the fat off of their company. They have let go of most of the study and research staff that were no longer needed now that the IP has been developed. A lot of that was through contracted labs, which are now closed. They're no longer in operation. So a lot of the operating expenses, as you can see from the previous quarters, has been cut drastically from $46 million all the way down to a mere $20 billion as of the first quarter of 2022. The operating expenses was the biggest drag on the company, and they currently still have plenty of financing and support from their latest partnerships. So I have a great deal of faith that the company is still in good health right now. They do also have support from other institutional investors, such as Ethereum, which, as you know, if you've been following me for a while, I cited Ethereum for potentially playing both sides of the stock, trying to drag it down with shorting in order to pick up more shares at the downside. That's all still a possibility, although it's not likely that we'll ever prove that. The point is that these companies, these institutions that are bullish on Biora, even if they are playing both sides, it is done so with the intention to acquire more shares within the company so that they can possibly sell to a major buyer in the pharmaceuticals and internal medicine industries. For the balance sheet, currently the total equity and liabilities in the company are weighed to the debt side. There's more liabilities than there is assets year over year. But as you'll notice, Progenity or Biora has been rapidly getting rid of most of its liabilities. The number of assets has declined as a result of cutting some of their operations and removing those labs that I mentioned earlier. But they've also been reducing their debt and overall have made some great strides in deferring their debt to long-term debt, making it easier to pay it off. They've also made some improvements to their book value per share. Currently, the price has been dragged down quite significantly. You can see book value per share is still in the negative. However, I expect this to change dramatically once the actual clinical data for their intellectual property from the OBDS and the DDS drug delivery systems are made publicly available and partnerships have been announced. At this time, we don't know who the partners will be. We don't even know when they will be announced, but we can speculate on a few things based on the drugs that Biora has been targeting. And we can speculate that because those drugs are both developed by Pfizer and AbbVie, that those are two potential major pharmaceutical partners that they're working with. Currently, it seems their priority is tofacitinib because it's the easiest to deliver. It can be done with the DDS delivery system, which does not deliver drugs intravenously. It simply deposits the payload within the intestines, so it's the easiest system, so to speak, in order to get to that clinical trial, get a passing clinical trial with good data. The OBDS system is likely going to take some more time and effort on the part of Biora. Overall, the company is still in quite a bit of debt, but because the debt is deferred, they've got a strong basket of institutional investors propping them up. They've got plenty of cash runway to keep going. They do have all of their intellectual property ready to go, and they have hundreds and hundreds of patents which they have available that are providing a hidden, I'll say, like shadow equity to the company because none of those patents have actually been valuated properly. So there's no telling how much this company will be worth once all of these patents are applied to actual inventions and start to be marketed and sold to partners within the medical and pharmaceutical industry. That pretty much covers all of the technicals and fundamentals of Biora. I encourage you to, of course, do your own due diligence and review this in depth on your own time as you're able to. And please, of course, as always, none of this is financial advice. Please take with a grain of salt everything I've said. I'm obviously biased because I am long on Biora and I intend to be long for the lifetime of the company. But all that being said, thank you so much for watching. I hope you found some value in this. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and consider joining our community on Discord at discord.gg/Hell's Trading Floor. Thank you so much. I look forward to seeing you next time. Until then, have a hell of a time in the markets.